Okay, you all good? Let's do it. Hello and welcome to the B2C Lead Generation Podcast. So a few weeks ago, we spoke to Josh Little at Digital Mojito about what it takes to build and run a successful niche affiliate network. And today we're going to take that theme further and look at a company that will be seen as a pinnacle of success within the affiliate network industry in the form of CJ Affiliate. So the title of today's podcast is very simply Large Affiliate Networks. I'm very conscious of not making this podcast a sales tool. You know, we want this to be purely educational, but Converse Media, as they used to be known, or now CJ Affiliate to us, are a client of Datable, and I imagine in the call a few things may crop up which talks about that. So I feel in the interest of transparency we should sort of address the fact they are a client of ours, but absolutely we're not going to make sure we don't approach that. We're not going to talk about Datable in this. Hopefully we're just going to talk about what it takes to be a large affiliate network. But yeah, I thought I'd just point that out in advance. So we're going to have Alex and Karol join us in a second. Obviously you know these guys pretty well, Simon, but I guess there's an opportunity to speak to them at a different level. What are you hoping to find out?
Yeah, so I think like you mentioned, they might talk about Datable, but that's pure just because it's some of the tech that they use. We're not necessarily after that information because obviously we know about it already. So I'll put the party poppers away every time I mention it if it's good, and you know, don't cry if it's bad. But I think it's going to be interesting finding out the sort of inner workings of a large affiliate network that runs lead generation effectively. The other technology they use, because CJ or Conversant have their own technology that they've used for years in the house, and I'm sure that it's grown and is used all over the world for a range of different purposes. And also the sort of clients they get. You know, we've spoken to lead generators that work with some big brands, but there's a bunch that work with smaller brands in different ways. These guys work with massive brands globally. So I'm interested in like how that's approached from a lead gen perspective with them, and how it works, and get the inner workings to all of that. I think will be interesting.
And we're joined by Karol, Kellner and Higson from CJ Affiliate. Welcome to the show, guys.
Nice. Hey guys, good to be here.
Yeah, good to be here.
I think just before we came on, I was talking about it, Alex. I think the last time I saw you was at PI Live a couple of years ago, and we were running like a sort of an exhibition booth where you could win prizes, and it was like a roulette thing, completely random. And I seem to remember you guys won all the prizes. Because we know you, I think we for it, and everyone thought it was some sort of fix or something.
I think we pitched up, and you were like the first people that we saw. I think I was the first spin on the wheel or something ridiculous. Yeah. And it was like, oh, imagine if you won the top prize. And then the zero came up, and I was like, oh my God, I've won the prize.
Have you used that Kindle? Have you used that Kindle?
Do you know what?
That's the most important part.
Do you know who's using it? My mum.
Oh, look at that.
I donated it to her as a little present. So it's gone to a really good home. It's gone to a really good home.
Stay home, stay safe.
At least it's being used. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
So normally, guys, I kind of give a little intro to the guests. But obviously, we've got two guests today for the first time, and I've kind of realised that's doubling my workload, and also it means going to loads more of me speaking, which no one really wants to hear. So if you don't mind, I'm going to just ask you guys if you can just sort of intro yourselves and tell us roughly what you do, and I think that might be the best way to do it, if that's cool.
Yeah, Karol, do you want to go first?
Yeah. So I am on the CJ team with Alex, and I am a senior client development manager. So obviously that involves selling lead generation campaigns, managing campaigns, basically doing the whole sales cycle. It's a 360 role. So obviously selling in the client, managing it, you know, working with crafting the campaign, managing the campaign, as well as, doing the post-campaign follow-up. And as well as working with you guys, our glorious tech vendor that helps with the whole process as well. So that's kind of intro about me.
The most painful part, right?
Yes.
No, the best part.
The best part.
Hi, yeah, I'm Alex Higson. So I've been at the company now, or within the Conversant Publicis sphere, for coming up to 6 years. which is pretty crazy. But I manage the lead gen team, but similarly to Karol, I focus on like the more BD side. So going out to agencies and clients and pitching exactly what CJ does from a lead gen point of view, and something that we are looking more at in 2021 is how we can pitch lead gen and affiliate together, and have a really strong like agency proposition in the CPA space as well. So that's definitely going to be coming up in 2021, but the focus for us is purely on sort of CRM builds, lead gen, and that type of thing. Yeah.
Cool. And just really quickly, just before we kind of get stuck into the serious questions, and this might be boring for you guys, I apologize, but just people listening, can you just explain sort of the difference between CJ Affiliate, Conversant, Epsilon, and just different names, just so people can understand which each does?
Yeah. So how long have we got on this?
It's a doozy. It's a doozy.
We'll just turn the egg timer over.
Yeah. So they've actually dropped the Conversant name now.
Yeah.
So it's all Epsilon. But I joined, and Karol joined Conversant when it was part of a bigger company called ADS, Alliance Data Systems, and their tagline was the biggest company you've never heard of. But they dealt a lot with loyalty and sort of credit card information in the US. Huge company. They bought Conversant back in 2014 or 2013-14, I believe. And Conversant was basically, and CJ were sort of digital specialists in lots of different areas, including display, mobile, affiliate activity. And Conversant focused on the display and mobile side and video side of digital. CJ, as the name would suggest, focuses on affiliate activity with publishers. And the reason they were bought is because of the ID and sort of the holistic view of who a person is behind a device. And we were part of ADS for a number of years, and then we were picked up by Publicis, and Epsilon and Conversant were sort of merged together because we were sort of singing from the same hymn sheet slightly. And the Epsilon business sort of focused on the back end of CRM, and Conversant was more focused on front end. So the narrative was quite nice to bring them together. And us as the lead gen team, we officially moved over to CJ at the start of 2020. And we're now sort of starting to sort of move away from the Epsilon side of the business, because it's slightly different to like what we do. So it's been a lot of change for us, like in the last couple of years. And definitely like at the start of 2020, we've had to adapt to not only COVID, but like, you know, joining a different part of the business, learning about affiliate, you know, a cultural shift as well. So it's been a big change, which I'm sure Karol would agree with.
Oh yeah, no, it was that. I mean, it's always nice when Publicis keeps an eye on you and purchases you for, you know, a lowly little sum of $4 billion. So, you know, kind of, they got a good deal, I think.
It's one of your Bitcoins, isn't it, Karol?
yeah, exactly. They purchased us via Bitcoin. But, you know, I think it was definitely a good shift. But obviously with the way every market is going, consolidation of big corporations, I think it's the right fit of us being part of Publicis, because obviously I would say they are the top agency worldwide with the best services. So it's naturally, we kind of fit into that pillar as well. And obviously personalization, one-to-one marketing, scale, and all that. So it all kind of lines up perfectly with each other. So I think it's a good move.
It's a massive amount of information to take in, even just the explanation of it. I'm actually very impressed that you gave the full timeline of it all, Alex, and
yeah,
got it across.
Yeah. He explains it every day on client calls.
When did you pitch? Do they go, all right, I'll take it, just stop?
I think one thing people always find out is how much resources there are under this big Publicis umbrella. Pretty much like if you need help with anything marketing related, just come to Publicis and they'll find a solution to your problem. You know, whether it's even print, right? They even do print and stuff like that. So
yeah, I was going to say, because like you mentioned, Karol, as well, when you join all these things together, I mean, the opportunity is huge for any company working with you, isn't it? And so when did you actually stop becoming known as Conversant?
I think early in the year, wasn't it? Early start of this year, if not late.
Yeah, it was definitely sort of Q4. There were rumors of it like in the summertime, and then I think it's officially been dropped like as of the last couple of months, kind of thing. So it's quite a new thing.
I would say we found out because we saw loads of discounted Conversant swag on the company website. It was like, I think $2 for like a sweater. So we knew that merch was going up.
Oh, you should have told us. We could have got some.
Karol snapped that all up very quickly.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for the succinct answer. I'll send you a recording of that, Alex. So next time someone asks you, you can just play that again.
Hit play. I'll turn off my video. You just listen.
So just kind of kick things off. So we've been doing this podcast, and we've got this sort of emerging theme, not intentionally, but just what people have brought about transparency, and it's really become sort of the thing that's really held the podcast together, and it's really become quite important. And what with the companies we've spoken to far, they're comparatively a lot smaller than you guys. So I guess what I'm kind of wondering is how that translates to a company of your size. Is transparency something that you guys find really important, and are you able to manage that in the same way as you scale up? Like, what are the challenges of that?
Yeah, I mean, transparency definitely in lead gen is like a huge topic. Historically, we've been very careful about being transparent, only because we've been very burnt in the past with advertisers cutting us out, etc. But I've realised that is, if I owned a company, I owned a brand, I'd want to know exactly what was going on. So I could put myself in advertisers' shoes in that aspect. And we've definitely shifted slightly as a company as well, and tried to be a bit more transparent with that data. But the reason we can do that is because we've strengthened our publisher relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's more of the fact that side of things is so much stronger than it was. Therefore, we are a little bit more trusting of that. And I think shifting, the whole rhetoric at the moment with certain brands is that transparency piece. And I don't know if you remember, but the CFO or CEO of P&G came out a couple of years ago and was like, we're doing a complete review of all of our activity, and we want to know exactly what is going on in the group. And that obviously affected on our side and what we were doing with the agency and the client as well. So we definitely were affected by that, but there are definitely things that you can do to be a bit more transparent. It's not necessarily, being completely open with how you're running the activity, because essentially that is our bread and butter. That's why we're part of the discussions with clients, is because we are the specialist. And if we are completely transparent, we're essentially handing over that black book of what we bring to the table. However, we have shifted slightly in the way that we talk to clients about transparency. So I don't know if there's any real life examples you have, Karol, you've come up against with certain clients.
I think usually clients are obviously transparency very important, right? Because we want to know where the money is being spent. But one thing clients usually, it's not about typically knowing what the publisher is, where the ads are. It's usually about the quality and what safeguards we have in place about the data generated, right? If we have a strong validation service, we have a good process of getting leads, the channels are clear, that kind of transparency reservations kind of falls on the wayside. And if we can guarantee quality and show if the final product is there, right, the lead is validated or the sale is genuine, the kind of nitty gritty, who's the publisher, where is this ad sitting exactly, kind of falls on the wayside as well. So it's kind of managing that barrier of transparency by just showing a good result on the final stage. But obviously, look, if transparency is important, fine, we'll tell you the publisher names. We have very good relationships with our publishers, and they know that they are in a better position working with us through the client in the long run than getting a quick win and going directly to the client, right? Because it's all about building those long-term relationships with our publishers and clients as well. So that's kind of
I think also you can pick apart what transparency actually means for whoever you're talking to.
Yeah.
So what I found is that if you ask them a bit more in terms of what that definition of transparency is, whether that is the sort of channels that you're running and they want to see creative in situ, or whether that's the publisher in question, they want to know exactly who they are, or if it's simply like they want to know not necessarily the name or how you're running it, but how they actually build the data and store it. So I think that's the main thing for me, is like when that does come up, it's like understanding and picking that apart of like, okay, what does that mean to you as an advertiser or an agency, and let's answer it directly rather than assuming that we think that's what you're talking about, so therefore we're just going to answer it on a broader level. So I think certainly just asking the question and what that definition is the best port of call for us.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed with you guys like a few ways that you handle it. So I think a great way is when you actively build the landing pages for clients. So it's like a service you offer, because most affiliate networks don't necessarily do that, right? They just whatever page it is. And what it means that you can be like transparent about why you want to build it, and the fact that you can then control the lead generation mechanism, have different validations, like you've said, and use that as like the central resource that's being pushed out to publishers and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is something that I've thought is, if you're working with a lot of large brands now, and I mean, it has been like this in the past, but even more so now, there's so much emphasis on GDPR and the protection of data and things. And this is something like, I've thought about for stuff we've done, is working with you guys is actually in a lot of ways a lot easier, because you do so much due diligence on the publishers. And if a brand tries to go like out into the market on their own, it can be really difficult, right? They might not know, like you can get stung very easily.
Because obviously with us, we have the first level is the CJ network, right? That's the first layer. To even join the CJ network, you need to have a valid company, right? You need to have GDPR approval. You need to have a solid privacy policy. That's to just join the CJ network. Then to work with us on the Legion side, then you also got to speak to me and Alex and Getty, right? We need to kind of suss you out, see where you're coming from, how you build your data, etc. And then finally, the third piece is obviously if they do run a campaign, there's that validation towards the end of the campaign, right? Using the Datable validation service. If they do generate data, then we validate that a third time. So it's kind of 3 layers of kind of controls before a publisher can kind of work with us. So, it kind of offers a lot of protection.
Yeah, I think the main thing that I go out to clients with is that compliance piece, because certainly for lead gen, like the quality side is so important. If you're getting crap data, then you're going to get crap results. You're not going to see the ROI. So try and focus on that. And that compliance team that we've got in the US is a really good
sometimes.
Yeah. So sometimes they switch off publisher accounts without telling us, but they're basically policing the network for us. So instead of the client doing their due diligence and potentially not focusing on something they should, or missing off, an important piece, they can rely on us as a bigger company to get past that and really secure them that activity and the data that's coming through the system. And then obviously we have you guys as Datable really securing that as well. So if there are those layers of security through the process that can catch things if things are missed, which is so important. So I think that compliance piece in that US team is definitely one of the biggest things that we can bring to market. Of course, that it's not 100%, and there's always things that potentially fall through the cracks and need to be investigated. But in terms of other propositions to the market, we are definitely up there with one of the most secure and one of the better publisher networks.
What do you know when you said that you've been burnt a few times in the past? What did that look like?
So do you mean the publisher side?
Yeah, I'm not sure. You said you've been burnt,
So certainly for some of our activity, it's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But some publishers, they monetize their site through taking links and different offers from websites and then hosting it on their site. And that's not without the permission of us, which is something that we actually investigated through you guys, because when this actually happened, Databolt flagged it, you guys flagged it as a problem, and it was something that we investigated. So what was happening was a publisher that we hadn't approved on the activity took the links from receiving either an email or seeing a placement directly on a publisher site, lifted that off the site, put it on their publisher site, and was generating leads from their traffic without being approved. And what was happening is it was coming through as like an unknown ID on Databolt. So you guys saw that and were like, right, you've got a high number of leads coming through from a publisher which doesn't exist. So it's clearly something that we need to investigate. And we actually looked into it and we found out it was this specific publisher which we didn't have on board. It was then flagged to the client within like a couple of days. They then actually approved that they were happy with the leads in the end, and we actually just outputted them and billed for them. So it's that type of thing that can happen, which is, again, it's just the nature of the beast with lead gen and digital. But it proved that having people like Databolt, having, you know, compliance teams, having that security in place really, really helps and is absolutely needed on all campaigns.
Sure.
The internet is the Wild West, right? So if we can bring even a tiny bit of order to it, you know, it's a win for everybody, I find. So
yeah, it's tough, isn't it? It's something that we've spoken about on like a few of the other podcasts that we do. It's because it's like data is not tangible, is it? So it's like it's almost why transparency and trust is needed with people, because that's the only thing you've really got to rely on, sort of thing. And then
trusting publishers.
Yeah, and obviously it also means that the mechanism to like commit fraud or, you know, do whatever is always like growing, because it's just trying to figure out ways to submit or leads or fire pixels or whatever it is they're doing. It's tough.
Yeah, I think we've certainly found from working together that we've refined like the way in which data is cleansed and what we should be looking out for, and it's worked out in a really good positive way, because we've learned from things in the past and we've then created things in the future which combat for that. And we're constantly like learning and making sure that the pages are like built in a certain way. We're cleansing the data and verifying it in a certain way. And it's, you know, there are problems that do arise and no one can get away from that, but it's about how you can then try and, you know, protect that in the future for future clients.
Yeah.
Yeah, the internet is the Wild West. I like that, Karol. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that in my marketing materials for sure. So one thing I want to talk about is you obviously work with huge brands. I know that's something Simon mentioned that he wants to kind of look into a little bit. But
yeah,
from what I kind of want to know is, from the perspective of a brand, what are the kind of benefits and opportunities that using an affiliate network represent versus other channels, would you say?
I think the first one would be scale, right? Because usually a publisher, let's say a client, right? A client has like a head of marketing, and then there's like maybe 2 or 3 marketing people under that person, right? So they're kind of responsible for running a campaign, right? So what we can offer is that scale, right? Because then those 3 marketing people would then have to individually contact, let's say 20 publishers, right? Craft the offer with them, send them the assets, figure out tracking for these 20 different publishers, versus coming to us allows them to kind of let us handle that. And what they just have to, you know, kind of figure out is just a strategy. What do they want to accomplish? And then we are kind of left to our own devices to make that happen, right? We have all the tools where we can contact publishers en masse. We have a unified tracking platform, you know, that kind of shows visibility across everything. So it's just that ease and scale. And all they have to worry about is, you know, what their actual strategy is and crafting their brand message. So I think just simplicity and scaling up, you know, easily. And I'm sure, Alex, there's a bit more you want to add to that.
Well, you say I talk too much.
No.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Karol said. Like the scale side is probably one of the first things that I always say to clients. but then also twinning that with the quality piece, as I said before. But then also like the account management, like the account management piece for CJ is like second to none. They're always up for numerous awards every year, and one of the biggest ones, and probably the one they've won most frequently, is that account management piece, and it's something that the team go to market with and really get a lot of feedback from. So other networks, actually had a call today about it with a client who was working for another large network, and they weren't too happy with the way that their account was being managed, because it was quite like the people managing it were quite junior. They didn't have much experience in the field. So it was clear that this company were, bringing people in to be like, okay, we can have someone in the industry, start their career, build them up, but then they were chucking them on campaigns immediately and not managing them properly. So you obviously get disgruntled clients and whatever that comes with that. So I certainly think that account management piece is like super, super important, and actually having the experience to grow an account effectively, knowing who the publishers are, and knowing enough to then build that and grow revenue rather than just doing your day-to-day, ticking things along, seeing very small growth, if not any. So I think they're probably the three main pieces: is the scale that we can bring, the quality piece, and then also the account management.
Do you know when you're approaching the larger brands, because this is the thing, right? Like we spoke to Josh Littler and talked about like how he built a sort of niche network, I suppose. So he focuses on subscription models and whatever else. But obviously, if he goes out to a large brand, he's got a real job for them to like, one, they'll never have heard of him. Two, there have to be like deep investigations. I mean, he doesn't necessarily have the resources to be able to like.
So I think one thing with the whole Publicis umbrella, we have like, credibility, and, Publicis does have this, company motto where that if you're not happy with your ad spend, you can, they'll refund you, for example. Obviously that's like a kind of general slogan, but, they just stand behind their work as well. And a big reputable brand will obviously be much safer to work with. And obviously, for example, like you just mentioned, Josh, who is a publisher on our network, for example, he can still get access to those brands, but he works via us as well. So it kind of benefits everybody to kind of have one entity overarching everything and having that, reputation to back, the client's, reservations, right? Because nobody wants to take a chance on a smaller company, right? I mean, I don't believe with that aspect, but some clients are a bit more risk averse and they want to work with a reputable large company, right?
And they like the security aspect of it, like having, even though we are a small team, we're part of a much bigger team as well in terms of the company wide aspect. So they can dip their toe into lead gen, but then also we can work on their affiliate piece or their display activity or their mobile. Like the areas for growth are much bigger. Whereas if a sort of siloed publisher is coming to them and being like, we can run activity for you on a performance level, but it's very much a walled garden where it's just subscription based, CPA based, and that's it. It's something that they can come to, a team like us or a company like us and be like, okay, we want to hit that goal, but then you can also hit that goal in addition to, the other stuff that you're working on. So it's more the growth piece as to why they would probably work with us. And then we also say, like, as Karol mentioned, like, you'll probably be working with the publishers that you're talking to. You're probably on our network anyway. So just come and work with one point of contact, and we'll manage all of those relationships for you. So
it's sort of what Josh said. But so when you actually go into the clients, do you find that they've heard of you already? Like, is there ever?
Everybody heard of CJ Affiliate, right? They usually come to us and say, oh, you guys do lead gen as well. Like, it's more like the CJ Affiliate name is so well known that lead gen piece, which we are, it's big in the business, it's kind of, undershadowed by the whole affiliate.
You'd be surprised, to be honest. Like, even though we were bought by Publicis, okay, you'd have some agencies and contacts not even realizing that. So you go to a meeting with them and they'd be like, oh, oh, I've never heard of CJ, and you'd be like, well, we're part of your company, so
That's probably more internal, yeah.
Yeah, so it's trying to like push through that, but certainly probably 70-80% of the time they've heard of one of the companies at least.
That you just have to reel off them until they like not.
I think the best part is when they email you, hello Conversing team, then one email, hello Epsilon team, hello CJ team, hello Publicist team. So like just whatever, if it's in a group, we can get called.
That's why we put all the logos in our email signatures.
I have my signatures. I hold the logos. Like if you email me, you're in the right place.
Can't just get the first letter from each of them and create a new name and go
yeah.
CE. What and in terms of technology and things, obviously we work with you guys, but the system that you use internally, which is effectively like the tracking system that underpins everything that you guys do, even on the lead gen side, the tracking side, however it's done. Is that actually used to sort of bring clients in as well? So the robustness of it, how long it's been going, the fact that so many publishers and advertisers use it and things.
Yeah, I think so. It's because the CJ platform, right? We use it to run lead generation campaigns. Our affiliate team uses it to run affiliate campaigns, but a client can just use the platform on their own and run their own program, right? It's a very robust and flexible platform, right? If you want us to manage it, we can manage it for you. If you want us to manage your lead gen program by it, we can. Or if you want to use it on your own, you can. Or if you're a publisher, you want to reach advertisers, you can use that platform for free as well, and obviously register and run campaigns. So it's just it's a very flexible and kind of multi-use platform from what we've experienced.
Yeah, I think the platform basically hits any like hurdle that a client would come up against almost. So it's like if they don't have the resource to manage a client or their activity, we have the resource to do that in our account management teams. If they simply want to run the activity themselves and recruit publishers because they're not necessarily big enough to afford the whole service, then absolutely we can do that as well. So it's kind of like shoehorning it into exactly what they need. And that's definitely come about, over the long period of time that it's been an affiliate network, but CJ's been around for so long, right? So it's when we're going to talk to clients and agencies, it's bringing that experience to the table, which a lot of clients really like. So.
Yeah. And also the piece that I want to mention is that it's a very flexible platform. It's connected up with Dateable as well, right? So you can take the platform and connect it up with other platforms that an organization may have, right? So it's not like a black box. It's more of a tool that you can plug into other parts of the whole infrastructure of a business.
So do you know when you get your lead gen campaigns, do you actually put them out into the network and then lead generators apply for it, or do you approach the people?
We can do both, but because we're very tactical and we build our media plans in a bespoke manner, we tend to handpick affiliates and publishers. But sometimes, look, if we're struggling, right, we're not getting hits from our core group, we can put it on the network and it's visible to everybody on the platform.
Yeah, the problem being, because the affiliate side is very different to like the lead gen side in that aspect. Like for an affiliate client, any publisher can apply to it and run the activity, take the links and put it on their site. Whereas when the lead gen piece goes live, what we say is a bit more bespoke. So we handpick those publishers, hand approve them, because the client usually has specified guidelines. So going back to what I said before about that publisher taking the link and running it on their site, the problem with that is that the client has said, you can use these images, you can use this headline, you can use this bit of copy, you can use this email creative, and that's all you can use for the activity, because we've got a specified offer or we've got a specified push that we want to do at that certain time. So the problem with us putting it live to the network is that all publishers will take it, run it how they want to, and then the publisher sees that, the client sees that and goes, what's going on, because we've approved those guidelines and you're not sticking to them.
Yeah. So it's it'd be like non-incent and incent, right? Sort of.
Yeah, exactly that. So it's that sort of juggle mentality. We've got our own lead gen network that we send out to, but essentially we go into the system and we approve all those publishers. Although we see it goes live to the network. So we do see 500, 1,000 publishers apply for it, but we only hand approve, probably up to 10 of those, like on a campaign.
It's a VIP club, right? We only want to work with the best, right?
Yeah. Golden circle.
Golden circle, yeah.
How are the sort of teams viewed? Because obviously CJ, well, it's in the name, right? CJ affiliate, so it was all on like CPA or
yeah, CPA. It's a more of a long term, right? If it's like a year-long program or a 6 months program, that would be more of a affiliate remit, for example.
Yeah, but how are the teams like internally then? And do you work? Because I think you mentioned at the top of the call that or that you're going to be merging a bit more.
Yeah.
So what?
Well, I think I would say we kind of fully transitioned. I would say we're very integrated with the whole CJ, company structure as well. And we still have very close links to the Epsilon side as well, because we do collaborate with. We're pretty much all parts of the business as well. So. Yeah.
So what I mean is that, so let's say you had you saw in CJ a massive campaign where they were running it on CPA, but actually at the beginning was a form that they were filling in, and then it was, they were sending an email and they were running it on a CPA on the back end of that. Can you cross-pollinate campaigns between the different teams so they actively approach and go, you guys should be running this because the client, although they want the sales, they're also interested in the leads, or do you have to go and handpick ones that you want, or I just wondered how it worked internally.
Yeah, I think for us, if we do see the way we do it in practice, or at least I do it in practice, if I do see an affiliate client and I go on the website and I see a data capture element, like sign up for a newsletter, I do reach out to the account manager or the sales manager responsible on the affiliate side and ask for an introduction and ask if they are also, interested in growing that initial demand element of building a newsletter. And usually 9 times out of 10, the client is like, yeah, they'll hear us out. And, it is very successful as well.
So the account manager doesn't say get off, that's my client.
No.
Sometimes, I'm not naming names if it's going out to the world, but there's definitely been a few, getting around some bureaucracy. But on the whole, definitely, it's a very good company for that type of thing. It's as I said, we weren't part. We used the CJ Tech and the publishers, but we weren't actually on the CJ P&L until the start of 2020. So the cross-pollination between the teams has grown exponentially in 2020 and has really meant that we've come out fighting from a tricky year for a lot of people, and surpassed targets and stuff like that. And the sole reason for that is because that official move to CJ, meaning we're closer to the teams, the account management side and the CDs, they know more about lead gen, whereas before it was kind of they knew a little bit about it, but it was not a revenue piece for them. Whereas now they've realized that this is something that they can pitch to their client. It drives revenue for them. It's an added string to their bow. So definitely it's something we want to do more and more. You can never because it's such a big group, there's so much opportunity. So we really, really want to grab that, prove that 2020 wasn't a bit of a fluke, and grow a bit more in 2021.
And we all do, they get all the credit, we do all the work, right? So it works out for them, and it helps our target and revenue on the lead gen side. So
you're 80, win-win. It's crazy. You're 80% more likely to get a campaign signed off in revenue if you get an intro. So it makes so much sense if we've got a relationship with a client on the affiliate side of the business, or if we've got one on lead gen and they want to do affiliate. It makes so much sense for us to do the intro, and we've seen the benefits of doing that.
And I think the testament goes to the company culture. I worked at Teradata, I worked at Map Digital, and I think, while those companies were very collaborative, but it's just a whole nother level at CJ. People are very proactive. A new client is launched, there's always a mass email, then we can easily, hey, can we do a lead gen intro? And within 5 minutes, it's already started, right? They set up a call or an email to the client about lead gen. So it's people are very reactive and very proactive in, supporting us as a lead gen team, because we are a very small team. It's only 3 of us in the entire, global I guess, enterprise, and that we do manage a lot of lead gen campaigns. So
are you doing it?
Also need that help from the wider business, right? Because it's only me, Alex, and Getty, right?
Yeah, and you're doing it. You're doing it globally, right?
Yeah, we want global activity. Yeah.
So
we have a global network, so
it's quite a lot of work, though, right? If there's 3 of you managing lead gen campaigns for the largest agency all around the world.
We do get some help from a little.
You look so young still.
I'm actually 8 years old.
For 29, I still don't have any wrinkles yet. So
I don't know. When Karol grows his beard really long.
Or you just got some of those lights, just like face.
It's all makeup. Yeah. It's
definitely
full set of makeup.
It's definitely stressful sometimes having to manage it. And there's a lot of volume. We have to be like as organized as we possibly can.
Yeah, you do. Because obviously, Alex, I think we do also BD stuff as well and management of campaigns. If you want to get into that.
So, how many campaigns are you guys managing it? Like on average? So, if I just went, okay, in the middle of like March on an average day in 2020, like how many campaigns would you have running globally?
Probably between sort of 15 to 25 like per month. Obviously that fluctuates like in terms of the time of year. We usually see that the summer months there's a slight dip, which I'm sure is like the same for a lot of people, but between like 15 and 25 campaigns at any one time. And obviously they range in size as well. So we'll have some like always on activity with some larger clients. We'll have direct activity, we'll have agencies. So it's a lot of work because you obviously have to pivot the way that you talk about lead gen to an agency over like a direct contact. It's stressful, but I find it so useful for me. Like my skill set has grown like so much because I've had to learn tech. I've had to learn sales. I've had to learn account management. I've had to learn, numerous things like that. Usually a company would have separate teams to do, whereas we've had to, trial by fire and learn them all. So there's benefits and negatives to each aspect, but that's why I kind of love it and why I've like been here for so long.
Yeah, I think I would say lead gen is like if hustle was a job, it would be lead gen. Basically, making something out of nothing and managing basically our own small little business within a giant, massive corporation, right? That's kind of how I see it as well, because we have full ownership of everything, right? If something goes wrong, it's our responsibilities on our shoulders, right? So there's nobody to pass the buck on. So it's kind of, you gotta be really confident what you're doing, and you gotta be, if you say A, you gotta have A. You can't really, pass the buck at anybody. So it's like
that's a really good point. Like the company have always supported you in like what you wanted to do. It was very much like, right, here, this is yours to make it a success or for it to fail. Like it's completely up to you how you want to do it. And they give you that autonomy to run with it. So depending on what type of personality you are, you can either make it a massive success or you can like, work on something else and focus on like maybe a wider team thing. But as Karol said, I think that's a really, really good way of explaining it. It's like a little business within a bigger company.
It's interesting you mention it actually, because I remember going back quite a while now, like 2006, it started up until 2010. The company I used to work at and like cut my teeth in lead gen. It was very similar in terms of you sort of had to do everything. So, it'd be like part sales, part account management, learn the tech, learn about lead gen, learn all the publishers, build the relationships, everything else. And I think you're right. Like there's actually, for me, and I'm guessing it's the same for you guys, it was the thing that gave me like the most experience because I got such a deep dive into every single aspect.
You have to, because you're the one doing it. You can't call somebody to do it for you. Like you got to learn, right? Yeah. So it's very like trial by fire type of approach.
It's interesting that wouldn't happen if there was more than 3 of you though, right? Because imagine you had a team of 20, you'd probably be like segregated into different things that you go, like you do sales, you do account management, you work on the tech, you work like build a relationship with the publishers, whatever else.
I think
Exactly.
if in terms of scaling up, we could definitely get to 20, but if we have one person slowly integrated in, right? Because it's such a close-knit team, we need to slowly integrate people into this chain. So we kind of
Well, have you got an initiation like ceremony?
We cannot say anything about that for legal concerns. So.
Just look at the tiers of the new starters when they come on calls and stuff, and
it's a very hit the ground running type of role.
I think the only way that we're going to scale it is by growing as a team and becoming more integrated into CJ, because that support is so crucial. It's what we're trying to do more this year, because we joined as like a lead gen side of the business, but now we have shifted slightly. So Karol and I are part of the BD team. Rather than being separate lead gen, we're now part of the BD side, which is affiliate and lead gen, because we can share opportunities much easier by being part of that team. And then also Gedi, who is our sort of client development manager in the team as well. He's becoming more integrated with the CDs on the affiliate side to like train them up as well to be affiliate and lead gen specialists. So we want to get to a point where we want to be affiliate and lead gen specialists. And that, if you think about that, if you have a team of 7 salespeople that are proficient in both aspects, if you have a CD team, which is, dozens of people which are specialists in affiliate and lead gen, that's where the growth is going to come from.
But you guys would always lead the lead gen side, would you, or is that now going to be spread?
Because I mean, anything like lead gen specific, when they need like a lead gen specialist, we always jump on, either me or Alex. And now obviously Gedi did so well, he's being involved in lead gen. He's like the 3rd lead gen specialist in the company as well. So kind of we're the expertise on the lead gen side.
Nice.
One question I want to ask you, and forgive me if it's a slightly basic one, but I just want to understand how it works. When you're working with brands, how do you work with them kind of after the point of delivering the leads? Are you involved with like helping them with the nurturing, or helping them sort of how to convert the leads, or do you just give it to them and sort of lead them to it? Like how does that work?
Yeah, so we want to partner with them as much as possible, like throughout the whole process. You have some clients that just want to take it and do their own thing with it. However, we want to make sure that we're consulting them through that whole sort of after process as well, like not just delivering the leads, but also supporting with nurture strategies as well. So it's definitely something that we try and do. As I said, like some companies, they're big enough to manage that process themselves. However, we always do a post-campaign analysis after each campaign. And depending on level of spend, obviously that then dictates like how in depth we go. However, those PCAs are in place to say to the client, this is the performance, this is what we've learned, this is what we think you should do with the activity and the data that you've got. And this is what we recommend for the future. This is the type of audience that you're is engaging with your activity, that type of thing. So we build from those PCAs really. So after that's built, we set up a call, we discuss and go through those slides with them. And then as a follow-up, we want to understand what their nurture strategy looks like. Are they going to be setting up weekly email sends or text messages to nurture that data set? Or is it going to be a bit further down the line, which usually for our B2B clients, it's more of a monthly basis to work out whether it's actually generated ROI from them, which is what happened with one of our big B2B hotel clients, which did a load of lead gen with us, then came back about a year later and said that they found the activity generated 209% ROI, which is massive. And that was a year after the fact. So the nurture strategies can differ like a lot depending on the client, but absolutely we want to be part of that whole process and be more a consultant rather than just a lead provider.
Yeah, I mean, I find a lot of big brands already have a solid nurturing strategy in place. They just kind of lack the initial demand generation. But lower to middle clients usually, have like a simple welcome email. So we do try to bolster that up if we can, because obviously working with you guys on the Dateable side, you do have a solid nurturing product that we can also layer into that if there is a need. So, you know, we can kind of, you know, help both clients, small, middle, and large as well. So.
Yeah, we were talking about it recently, and we're saying like it'd be almost something that imagine just producing a pack that you can give to like different types of clients. I don't know, like e-commerce could think of this strategy, or you know, utility this strategy, or broadband, whatever, and actually give them like a game plan of how, because this is the thing with lead gen, right? It's like if you're measuring it immediately on the sales, like you said with a hotel company,
yeah,
he probably said
work.
to you, yeah, this is crap. But then a year later, he's gone like, you know, he's obviously had like a solid nurturing funnel, but he's then gone, this is like incredible. And so but most companies don't ever judge it on that basis. They don't have a nurturing funnel. They definitely don't judge it after a year. They go like a week after the campaign's finished.
Yeah, it's like, where are my sales? Like, they're like one lead, one sale. No. It's like, it's more, again, it's having that long-term view versus short-term instant gratification type of approach as well. So it's
like they're a lead for a reason, right? Because if you
exactly,
you know, you do see they would be working on that basis. It's something I think will get more and more important, the sort of nurturing aspect of leads and stuff, and this like realization, and not just from the fact of like trying to convert them. It's something I bang on about on LinkedIn with like the 2 followers that
I see all the time. I'm one of your second followers. I always get Simon a like. I'm like, oh,
I always like your Bitcoin stuff. So every time I see one, I'm like, it's time to buy. It's time to buy.
I'm telling, I am a Bitcoin evangelist. I'm gonna retire on my private island, and you will all call me crazy. But
how many Bitcoins have you got?
I am not gonna go into that. I'm just saying you guys should have some as well.
That's more than one. He's a millionaire. But yeah, I think it's not just to do with like chasing the conversion, but it's also like building the relationship with the that prospect, and actually like building the brand, so that when they start to think of whatever the product is they've come in, so let's say it's broadband, they're more likely to think of you than someone else, because you've started like doing this nurturing funnel. So it's not necessarily you're going to make the sale there. It's like a year later when they go to Google and start looking at like, oh, I want to change broadband provider, whatever, yours is the name that's going to resonate in their mind, because you've via this nurturing built this like story they can identify with. I don't know, in like the future there'll almost be companies that do that, you know, like it'll be like a service, like nurturing as a service almost. I don't know, it's just a thought I've got.
Yeah, I think that as well is like the sort of bread and butter of what Epsilon is about. I was about to say Conversant, but I need to get away from that. It's what Epsilon really like build their whole proposition on, is the fact that it's that continuous conversation, but knowing like when to serve an ad or send a nurture strategy, but then more importantly, when not to do that as well. So if they're more likely to purchase or engage at a certain time, then, you know, serve them at that time. But if they're not, then hold that back and save those marketing pounds to like a better time. So that continuous conversation like is so important, whether that's display, media, video, lead generation, nurturing, like whatever it is. And then, as you said, back to that example, like when they are at that time that they're ready to change, then you know, you're front of mind. And it's the same for us, like in business development, like, and having prospects, like you have certainly on the affiliate side where you have like longer term contracts, and sometimes for us with our contacts as well that aren't ready to spend at that moment, it's continuously like sending them collateral, sending them news articles, you know, that's a nurture strategy for us. So if we should do that and it helps our business development and brings in revenue, you should absolutely be doing that as a company with your consumers. Like that's even more important because you're trying to get money out of them as a customer, and, you know, keep them as a customer over time. So, you know, nurturing and that strategy, like so important. And, you know, as you said, it's going to be becoming more important like in the near future.
I mean, yeah. I mean, for example, like I had one client that we're going to be working on in the next couple of days that I've been chasing them and emailing them for the last year, and then they just signed off budget, in January, right? So if you keep that long-term approach, that diligence, people will hear you out. If they don't tell you to stop, leave me alone, and keep at it, they are there. And
what sort of follow-up strategy have you had with them? Like, how often have you contacted them?
I think so. Initially, I always do maybe twice a week initially, and then after maybe 3 months, maybe it's once a week, once every 2 weeks. But they will always see an email from me, so I will always be in front of their mind. Kind of the whole epsilon publicist kind of philosophy, right? Always be front of mind, and the customer will notice you. So.
It's that important, like, balancing act of sending relevant stuff and not being annoying. Like, that's what you've got to like find is the perfect sweet spot.
Give them something of value.
That's what I was going to say, is like
a case study, right? Because obviously this client, I don't want to disclose it yet, but it's a beauty brand, right? So while I was trying to pitch this client, we've won other beauty clients, right? Like I can name, L'Occitane or Borean, right? Because obviously, those brands have approved us to speak about them, right? And I use those wins to kind of re-nurture and re-engage this, other client, right? So kind of using, past wins to add value to this new client. Because look, hey, this worked well for these guys, and it will probably work well for you as well.
There's always any story in the news, you could swing it in a way that like will connect it to like what you are talking to the client about in some sort of way. Or even if you're like, if you have a good relationship with that person, I saw this piece in the news that I thought you would find really funny or something. It's that simple stuff which just, even if there is like another opportunity outside of that, they'll always think of you in that aspect. So
you could do it like negatively, right? So imagine a headline says beauty brands suffer under COVID because no one like does makeup or
But not you.
No, it's like send it to me. Go. Imagine when the vaccine starts, this is going to explode.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say you had the best one, Alex, when you wrote, "Why do you hate me?" And the client replied within like 15 minutes. He was like, no, I'm sorry, I don't hate you.
Was that the subject line or the body?
Yeah.
That was the subject line, yeah. Lead generation right there.
I put, "Why do you hate me?" with a sad face. And then that got like an instant reply, but not saying that's going to get 100% the response that you want. But if you've got a good relationship with that person, then I can definitely recommend something like that. It always works.
So anyone listening, if you want to get a good response from a potential client,
try it out.
Yeah. And actually, one of the other sales guys, he messaged me and was like, "Oh mate, like what was that sales tactic that you had?" And I was like, what did I do? I was like thinking about it, and I was like, do you mean when I put the subject line is "Why do you hate me?" He was like, "Oh yeah, I'll try that." So people thought it was some like ridiculously in-depth sales tactic that I'd used, but it was completely basic.
And I think just due diligence, right? It's like if you do it something every day, you will get a result, right? You will get a reply. Like, I believe that.
Yeah. And how do you think brands, and so we're talking like big brands, right, perceive lead generation? Do they like have a box for it, or do you think they see it as like just a part of marketing that always has to happen?
So like kind of the conversations I had, a lot of brands are not even aware of it. I would say, like usually they just think lead generation as passive traffic to their site, instead of obviously, doing a bit something more in depth with that traffic, using it for a newsletter, because some big brands don't even have a newsletter option, no way to sign up with your email, right? So they're kind of not even utilizing that traffic they're getting passively. So that's what I found as well.
Yeah, there's it does range, but 90% of the time there is some sort of lead generation or data capture element to an advertiser's site, and they don't put those two things together. So it's just an educational piece. So we always say, and one of Karol's tactics is you screenshot that piece and put it into an email and just say, you are already doing lead generation, and I'm sure you're monetizing your CRM. So let's take that, run with it, and build that out for you and show the growth. So I find it's more like an educational piece that they don't really understand. When you say lead generation, they're like, what does that mean? Whereas if you said, new customer acquisition, they'd be like, oh, okay, I'm getting new customers. So it's just
not yet.
Yeah, so it's just an idea of how you explain that, I guess. They understand it.
Yeah, and I think like Alex mentioned, like I always do research. I look on their website, I see how the website looks, and I screenshot that you sign up for an email or whatever. And I show them like, this is lead generation. Like it's not some mystical thing on the internet. It's literally this. This is lead generation. And then this simple, email address that you're collecting for, for £1 to £3 to £5, and a very cheap amount can turn into a lifelong customer. So it's like showing them the simplicity, but the power of growing that simple newsletter sign up into a long-term customer that could potentially spend thousands, with you over a year.
Do you find most clients are going after, because that sort of newsletter sign up is more of a like a CRM feel, right? So then the nurturing strategy starts. But if you're going for like long forms, the telephone number and address and everything else, it might be going into a sales function. So they're trying to hit it like immediately. Is there like do you work with both, or do you have them doing one more than the other?
We do both. But for us, we usually tend to focus on just a simple email. But again, it depends on the client, right? Like if it's more of a B2B client, they might have a more of a long form approach. If it's more of a insurance B2C product or like a health insurance product, there is that long form. But so to us, it's the same thing, right? We tailor whatever the client's goals are, to our approach.
Yeah. So I think it's back to that nurture point, is getting complete understanding of what are you trying to get out of this lead gen activity, and how are you actually activating the data. For example, if you've got a massive form and then you're only actually sending an email out to them every couple of weeks, but we've collected home address and phone number and all this added data, it's like, well, that's useless to like what you're actually trying to do. So let's try and make the user journey as simplified as possible, and you're only collecting the data that you actually need and you're actually going to use. And then it makes for much more of a seamless activity. Also, like, how are you nurturing them? Is it through specified funnels? Are you wanting to do different nurture messages to different audiences? So I guess, understanding completely what they're trying to do, what objectives they're trying to hit is, the most important thing for us to then actually propose something that is going to hit those objectives.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're just to sort of, last question I want to ask very quickly.
I think COVID, right? COVID is a big topic on the agenda, I would say, right?
Well, yeah. I think, and specifically, I think what I'm interested in is the fact that you operate at such scale that I guess you've just got loads of data. And with that amount of data, are there any patterns that you found emerging? Are there anything you've noticed in terms of either specific verticals that are either doing well or aren't, or practices that are doing well?
So I guess at the start of all the, the dreaded C word in March last year, we were affected just like everyone else. We had probably 7 or 8 clients that pulled spend. So the next few months looked pretty bleak. However, we pivoted slightly, and we focused on the sort of stronger client relationships that we've got, of clients that we knew were going to continue spending and how we can adapt those, but then also verticals that we thought would not necessarily be affected too much by COVID and might necessarily actually grow. And we've seen, some real benefits in the retail space. I was actually looking today that Wolf and Badger grew like 92% or something on their online sales. And that's been the case for a couple of other retail clients as well in the e-com space. So it was a case of like working out which of those we can really focus on. Our FMCG relationships really took us through and supported us throughout 2020. We saw a huge amount of engagement with those offers, because people naturally didn't want to go out and they wanted to find another way in which they could get offers and save money online. So doing lead gen digitally was a perfect fit. We found that streaming services, which was a vertical which we never really focused on too much, was huge for us in 2020, with a couple of main clients there, and then a couple of bigger wins on the retail space really helped us. But again, the CJ relationship benefited us like immensely, because they solidified and had solid relationships with clients already, and it was a really good in for us in that retail space. So definitely a big effect, but we've seen some real benefits that we're continuing to see like this year. So really put us in good stead for 2021. And I'm sure, you know, Karol's got some additional points, but definitely for me, like streaming services, which is something we're focusing on more this year as well. Retail has really benefited, FMCG massively, but then we've been affected by other areas where it's almost worked too well for clients. So in the healthcare sector, which we thought would be, you know, massive, because people worried about COVID, wanting to like protect themselves more. We've actually found those clients are doing too well and don't want to pay any paid media, and they're seeing, you know, 900% ROI. So that means it's worked too well for them, and they don't want to invest in lead gen. So it's just finding, you know, different ways and different areas that really found growth. But definitely those verticals which I mentioned were good.
I would say to also add one of the key verticals, I guess, for us was also additionally beauty. The beauty vertical was massive. As you guys know, we did work with you guys on two big brands, L'Occitane and Arborian. And obviously those were during the pandemic. And obviously, you know, there's more women at home probably want to try out makeup, stuff like that. Makeup tutorials were very big on YouTube, right? So that kind of all feeds together of people being at home, but still utilizing the makeup product at home, right? Not necessarily to go out and to socialize as well. And I would also say like browser extensions as well was also, we worked with a few browser extension clients that help you find coupons when you're shopping online. So those were also very popular during the the COVID period, because obviously people are at home, they want to buy to feel better, right? To kind of feel that sense of normality. So obviously using those extensions to find the best coupon, you know, just by clicking the button on a checkout page. So, you know, those were kind of the two verticals I would also add were growing for us.
Cool. Just one question I wanted to ask, actually, and we won't take up any more of your time after this, is how you get judged by clients compared to their other channels. So say like, I don't know, social or PPC or something else. Is it, do they see it as part of the mix, treat it separately, judge it against you? How does that work out?
I've definitely come up against social as like a competitor in the space. So I frequently pitch against you know, the big names in the social space, and the main thing in which that we come up against in those discussions is price. So naturally, these social media companies can offer a very, very cheap rate, and you know, when you put that in front of a client and they're seeing a really lean proposition, they love to see that and they love to invest in it. However, we also find that clients that do that then come up against the quality aspect. So they don't necessarily get the quality that they want, and they don't see the ROI off the back of that. Therefore, they throw lead generation into this pocket of like, it doesn't work, and you know, we tried it and it's failed. Whereas social is only one small part of lead generation. So I tend to find that we go up against as a separate thing, and data driving and lead generation, if they've dipped their toe into it, it tends to be that they've done one small part of a much wider thing. But definitely, like, it's thought of as something separate rather than all part of the same marketing mix kind of thing.
I always like when clients spend 10p on a lead and then complain, why is this not good quality? I'm like, well, you get what you pay for, right? So I think it's always that approach. And I just kind of, you know, usually the big elephant in the room is Facebook. So it's always kind of digging in at Facebook, right? It's a black box, right? You can't call up Mark Zuckerberg and ask you where this data is being generated. They'll just tell you to, goodbye. Versus on the other hand, like us, we can dig deep into the data and show you exactly, what goes into making this lead, right? And obviously validating it and providing you all the due diligence that goes along with it as well.
Yeah, I think it's like you said as well. It's a lot of people just chase cost, right? They just see like the shining Eldorado.
You gotta spend money to make money.
15
I always heard,
leads.
yeah. Spend money to make money is the, is kind of the approach.
Well, lead gen's always been about ROI, right? So the actual CPL doesn't really matter as long as it hits ROI.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's about. It's just you have to potentially test to like find out what that is.
I mean, just caveat that at the start of the conversations, like we can do this for you at a much cheaper rate, but you have to be aware of like how it's run and what that's going to generate for you. So if you spend a little bit more now on the rate, then you'll likely see a better ROI down the line. So again, it's back to that objectives of like what they're trying to find, really.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we've learned loads. Find it very informative. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
Great
Really
appreciate everything.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
See you later.
You're listening to the B2C Lead Generation podcast, and now it's time for the post-chat rundown. It's pretty simple. We talk through the conversation, assess what we've learned from our guest, and pull out the key ideas for you, the stuff we think can make a real difference to your lead gen. That was Karol, Kellner and Alex Higson from CJ Affiliate. And it's interesting doing this podcast, Simon. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm learning loads just by speaking to people. All the time I'm speaking to these experts, and I feel like, I guess intentionally, but I'm just learning more on their behalf, which is very nice. And I hope people listening feel the same way. But what did you find talking to those guys?
Yeah, it's really interesting getting a deep dive into a large affiliate network owned by the biggest media agency in the world, Publicis. How all that joined together in the way that they utilize all the assets and different departments and everything they have, and learning how that feeds into them working with big brands and stuff, I suppose.
And what did you think about what they're saying about almost affiliate marketing as a rival to social media in a way? I think he was sort of hinting at the end, which I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's because I wonder if a lot of brands that they work with see it in that way, or whether it's like a mix. So I imagine these brands that remove themselves, or like a lot of people after Cambridge Analytica removed themselves from Facebook. I wonder if like a lot of brands did it as well. And so this is then another route to customer acquisition or lead generation that they might have explored. But it is interesting. That's how they position themselves. I guess it sort of shows the power, if done properly, of affiliate lead generation, that it can compete with Facebook or whatever other social media that they're going after. So, and it obviously works because they wouldn't have any other business otherwise. It's interesting. That's what I have to say. What did you think of it?
Well, I think it was just what I try and do is I try and think about it from the perspective of someone who may use it. So, for example, a brand who may want to run that as a channel and who maybe isn't doing it, or even what Karol was saying about how a lot of brands do actually have lead gen, but they don't necessarily either refer to it as lead gen or they don't fully explore it. It's like, it's in the very base level, have a form for people to sign up to, and that is just lead generation. But he was saying, I show people on their website, they've got a form or something like that, but they're not fully delving into the possibilities that are open with lead gen. So I guess that's why I'm kind of interested in how a brand can explore lead gen through guys like that and really sort of make a success of it.
Yeah, it was interesting what you said, that a lot of brands don't necessarily know what lead generation is. So obviously the way we look at it is like a mix of your marketing, right? It's like an element of it. There's a bunch of stuff, and this is a part of it. And you can do like marketing qualified leads or sales qualified leads, however you're going to run it. And there's a lot of argument, that people make, which is you should only go after sales qualified lead, and some people find success doing it in a different way. But yeah, it's just interesting as it has to like point out on the brand's own site that they're already running lead generation is just maybe not particularly effective. And what they're really doing is talking about a way to either increase the activity that they're already doing, but they don't even know they're doing, or sort of turbocharge it if they do, I guess. And, this is a way you're actually going to increase the lead generation that you're going to do. So that's why it was interesting, like what the majority of the lead generation activity they run is. So they said a lot of it's like email signups, which I guess you'd call marketing qualified leads if you were running B2B, right? It's slightly different in B2C, but same terminology there. Because if you could translate that into sales qualified leads as well, it becomes a different beast. You almost have to work with different departments and stuff like that. It's not necessarily contained in the same, like CRM might go into a different sales activity or something.
I think a lot of it comes back to a word they use a lot, which is intent. And like a lead without intent, it's just contact information for you to ring up and try. It's not, I don't think it's a lead at that point. To me, even if they've submitted, it's like, unless the person genuinely has intent on buying a service or product, it almost like, can you even call them a lead? I mean, technically you can, they've submitted their details, but are they really a lead until, and I guess what I'm saying is sort of similar to the B2B side of it, as in when we do B2B leads, we kind of have a lot more stages, like you have marketing and qualified lead, and then they get progressed through the funnel. And it's almost like, like saying it is more like B2B in that sense. It's you're progressing through a funnel and a workflow a bit more. I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, but the other thing is like they're removed from that, right? It's like they're sort of relying on the client to have that activity in place. Yeah. So I still think this. I think we said it on the podcast, which is there's almost like a category that I think can be created. And I know a couple of companies that do it. So like there's a company in the US called Verse, who I've been speaking to, that act almost like a gateway before becoming like a qualified lead that will then move to a sale. And so they do it like via text messages or however they can do it. And they sometimes get like real agents involved and call them. But I can't get out of my mind that there's this thing that could be created. And so anyone listening to this podcast might want to do it, because if not, I might think about doing it one day. Like a nurturing service, but the nurturing service would need to be bespoke, dependent on the sort of vertical, the brand, the strength of the lead is feeling, the intent, I guess, and the association with the brand. But if they're not doing it, you can't help but feel there's this opportunity that's sitting there. I think I actually talk about it in like some of the endless LinkedIn posts that I bang out that the third person might like. But it almost could fall to the lead generator, right? Because that's, if they start adding this nurturing element into the funnel. But someone like CJ Affiliate could do it as well. I mean, it could be a upsell for nurturing the leads post collection, but then it all comes back to what the brand are then going to use it for. Because if it's to fill a CRM in like a marketing qualified lead sense, they might already have their own idea what they're going to do. If it's sales qualified, again, they're probably going to bang it into a call center or something. But yeah, for me, I can't help. Every time I hear these things, it's like there's something here where there's an opportunity for someone if they want to take it, or a company like CJ Affiliate could create a product, or someone else, which is either marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads that don't do whatever it is that you expect them to do, but there's still a person at the end of that lead, right? That's who it is. And can a connection be made with them for these brands? It's going off on a fucking massive tangent, this, by the way, because it's completely different to the question you asked me. But
there's very little structure to the podcast. Go for it. Go where you want.
It's like our lives, right? The COVID. It was there's a lot of structures, just nothing that happens in it. I quite like the way they just present to the brands. This is how you're already doing lead generation, whether you realise it or not, and we're going to do it for you and just turbocharge it.
Yeah, we'll do what you're doing, but just do it better.
Yeah,
I thought it was cool. Well, yeah, we'll call it a day, I think, because I know your wife's waiting for you to go home. I've kept you with poor conversion.
Hey, we're in lockdown. You can't say I'm not at home.
Well, you're in the office, aren't you? That's,
don't say.
Do you want me to edit this out, or do you want me to?
I don't mind. Right.
I mean, to be fair, you literally can't work from home because the internet's not working.
Yeah, the internet's not working. Yeah.
Keyword. Okay, cool. Nice one. We'll get cracking on with the next one soon. Thanks for listening to the B2C Lead Generation Podcast, the show for serious lead generators. Be sure to hit subscribe to hear more from those at the very cutting edge of the lead gen world.